Well, thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm so excited to share this recipe with you. This chocolate beet torte is perfect for Valentine's Day, obviously, which is tomorrow. Gets all of your beautiful vitamins and minerals while also being chocolatey, which is great. But one of the things that we like to do in the Holistic Chef program before we get started in the kitchen is taking a moment to ground ourselves, to become present in our space, because kitchens can be dangerous, right? So we want to make sure that we are fully present in what we're doing, practicing that mindfulness. So if you feel comfortable, feel free to close your eyes. If you'd like to turn off your camera, you also are welcome to. But just settling in to some deep breathing. Just really feeling sort of any tension in your body, giving a good stretch, giving ourselves a little care, a little love, all the while taking some nice deep breaths. It feels good to come to a place of stillness and just really focus on that breathing. On the inhale, really filling up your belly. And on the exhale, just pressing everything out. On the inhale, just bringing in all of that good energy and curiosity, knowing that you're in a safe space of learning and support. And on the exhale, just letting go of everything you don't need to carry for the next little bit of time. And take one more big deep breath in at your own pace. And on the exhale, feel free to open your eyes and come back. All right. Well, thank you so much for participating in a little breathing. It's good to remember to give ourselves a little bit of time and space. But now we need to make some chocolate cake. So that's what we're doing. So the first thing that we're going to do is prepare our pan. So before we get into any cooking at all, we want to make sure that all of our tools are ready and set to go. So for this torte, we're going to be using a 10-inch springform pan. And what's really great about the springform pan for this is that because the beets are a little bit stickier than, say, butter, that springform is going to allow you to release it a lot easier from the pan. We also still want to prepare our pan, though, to give us the best chance for success. So what I'm going to do is turn my pan over, and I have some parchment paper here. I'm going to fold it up kind of like I'm going to cut a snowflake. We're doing some arts and crafts today as well. And that's going to allow me to create a nice fan shape that I can then fill in the base of my cake pan perfectly. So we want to keep that center point nice and tight, again, like a snowflake or a paper airplane. And then what we're going to do is we're going to position the tip of that folded parchment paper right in the middle of our pan. Okay. When we do that, all we have to do now is take our scissors and cut a little curved shape. And then we open up to a perfectly round parchment that we'll insert in the bottom of our pan. So just like I said, though, with our beets, they are a little bit stickier than a traditional torte, which would be full of butter. So we're also going to be a little cautious about the edges of our pan. So what I like to do here is fold over my parchment paper in half lengthwise. Okay. We'll go ahead and take a knife or a pair of scissors to just cut that in half. Okay. And then what we're going to do is actually cut some nice little slits in the bottom of our parchment sheets, because this is going to kind of allow an overlap effect to happen when we put this around the rim of our pan. Okay, so nice little flaps about an inch or so long. We'll do that on our other sheet as well. And this is something that I would do, when I worked in bakeries, when I worked in restaurants. It's going to give you the best chance of success for your cake to come out of the pan cleanly so you don't have to worry about that not happening because nobody likes it when a cake gets stuck to our pan. So in the recipe, I'm going to be using a little bit of avocado oil. So I'm going to use just a touch of avocado oil to kind of lightly grease my pan. This actually is going to give my parchment paper something to stick to so that I can form it. Okay. So we have our little flaps on the bottom. We're going to go ahead and make a collar in our pan. And you can see how it kind of overlaps. The different slits creates this nice little fan effect. So you get this beautiful circular pattern. Okay. We'll go ahead and take the other piece, put it on the other side. Again, making sure that those little flaps are facing inward so we have that nice coverage around the bottom of our pan. Okay, great. And then we're going to go ahead and put in that nice little round that we cut. So now we have all pieces of our pan covered. And so when it's baked and ready to come out of the pan, it's going to give us the best chance for success to get it out without sticking. Okay. All right, so we're going to set this off to the side and start making our tort. So I want to show you the ingredients that I have. This is so simple, such a great recipe. So we have beets here. These are roasted and peeled, and you can see that beautiful color. Happy Valentine's Day, right? So really nice, rich color. That beautiful caramelization from the roasting effect is going to give you that really concentrated beet flavor. We're using a little bit of avocado oil for our fat. You could also use an olive oil if you prefer, but I like the kind of neutral quality of the avocado oil for this recipe. I have some raw cacao powder, and you could also use a cocoa powder if you don't have cacao, but I really love some of the health benefits that we'll talk about a little bit for our cacao powder. Okay. Next, we have some coconut sugar, which is a little bit lower on the glycemic index, so it can be a little better for people with blood sugar regulation. We have a little bit of water with some vanilla extract in it for flavor. I just love that aroma that it provides. And then finally, some eggs and a little bit of salt also that I have mixed in with my coconut sugar. And that's it. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to go over to our burner and put in our half a cup of water with that 1 teaspoon of vanilla and then our half of a cup of coconut sugar. So this is going to create a nice syrup that is going to help us blend our beets more smoothly. So we're going to just allow this to come to a simmer until our coconut sugar is fully dissolved because we want to create a really nice, smooth and silky kind of syrup out of this. Okay. All right, while that is happening, what we're also going to do is get the tool that we're using to mix our cake. I want to tell you this tort is really easy. I mean it. We're using a blender. This is a blender cake. Everything comes together very quickly. So we're getting our syrup going. That's just simmering away. And we're going to put the rest of our ingredients in the blender as we're waiting for that. So first we're going to start with our beets. And you can see I've got about 2.5 cups of roasted beets here. So it's actually the primary ingredient in this cake. They have natural sweetness, which is going to provide a really great base. The sort of bitter minerality of it also goes really nicely with the cacao powder. Okay. So you can see here, we've got my syrup nice and dissolved. Okay. Beautiful little dark color. We're going to put that into our blender now with our beef. We'll get our top on, and then we're going to start blending this. Okay, so if you see here, we're just going to start blending it up until it becomes this beautiful, bright magenta puree. All right, and for this stage, we want to try to get it as smooth as possible just because we are going to continue blending some of our other ingredients, but we don't want to over whip our eggs. So it's a good idea in this stage to get it as smooth as possible. Okay. Next, we're going to put in some of our other ingredients. So we have our avocado oil, That's a half a cup of avocado oil. Okay, we have our cacao powder. Again, raw cacao powder, so full of wonderful flavonoids, really wonderful antioxidants, and also tastes delicious, which is a huge bonus. And then we're going to put in our eggs. So we need 4 eggs for this recipe. We're going to go ahead and crack them. And I love cracking my eggs on a flat surface. That'll dimple the eggs instead of getting the shell into whatever you're putting it in. Okay. So again, cracking that egg, nice flat surface. It gives you a good crack, a little dimple, but without that shell potentially getting in there if you were to do it on the side of the bowl. Okay. All right. We'll go ahead, and I always like to crack my eggs in a separate container, just in the off chance that one of them is bad or we get extra shell in it. We don't want that to go directly into our blender. Okay. So we're going to pop our eggs in now. So we have all of our ingredients in there, our beets, our simple syrup with coconut sugar, and we're going to go ahead and blend this again into a nice, smooth mixture. All right. And that is all there is to the batter. So let me move some of this stuff out of the way. We can get our pan back, our prepared pan. And one of the things I also really like to do when I'm using a prepared pan is I like to put my prepared springform pan on a sheet tray just on the off chance that anything leaks out. This batter is pretty thick, but it's also going to give me a little bit of that security so I don't have to worry about it melting down and getting my oven all toasty with burnt beet flavor, which we don't want. So we're just going to scrape off all of that good stuff off of the plunger of our blender. Okay. Want to make sure that we get all of that goodness into the pan. And then we're just going to go ahead and pour it into our prepared cake pan. And you can see that beautiful color, that rich sort of magenta purple. It's going to get a little bit darker as it bakes, but it still has that nice sort of deep purple color. Mhm. All right. So now what we want to do is we just want to prepare the mixture. We want to try to keep it so that we get as few bubbles as possible. So what you're going to do is you're going to take the cake pan and tap it on the counter a few times. And I like to rotate and tap. What this is going to do is bring all of the bubbles from your blending up to the surface so that you get a smoother top once you're baking. All right. So I think we've popped most of our bubbles. We have it prepared on our sheet tray. And then this is going to go in the oven for about 50 minutes or so. A lot of that depends on your altitude. It depends on how your oven heats. You know, every oven is a little bit different. But generally speaking, anywhere from about 45 minutes to about 55 minutes is going to get you a really lovely finished product. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and put this in the oven, but don't worry, I have some movie magic. I made an extra one so we can start decorating. All right, so this is our finished tort. You can see how dark it gets, how rich, and it's a pretty decent size. This can comfortably feed about 6 people, but now we get to play around with some decorations. So the one thing I'm going to go ahead and show you today is how to make a dark chocolate ganache. So in our holistic program, we like using some alternative ingredients. So ganache is often done with equal parts by weight chocolate and heavy cream. But I'm actually going to be using coconut milk, a full fat coconut milk, which makes a lovely and rich texture so that this entire tort is then dairy free. We're also using a really nice dark chocolate, little bitter, little bit sweet, and we want to cut it up into very small little chunks because the heat, we're going to heat up our coconut milk. The only thing that's going to melt this is the residual heat from that coconut milk. So we want to make sure our pieces are small enough that they can melt in that short time. Okay. The other ingredients we're going to add for flavor, a little bit of vanilla extract. And then finally, for shine, a little bit of coconut oil. So this adds a beautiful sort of mirror effect to our ganache. So just a tablespoon or so of coconut oil gives you a beautiful shine. Okay. So we're going to go over to our burner, and I'm just going to go ahead and use the same one. So we are using our coconut milk, our full fat coconut milk. And we're going to heat that up with our vanilla extract and our coconut oil. Okay. So we'll go ahead and heat this on a nice medium heat. And we want to bring it just to a simmer. If you boil the coconut milk too hard, sometimes it can cause it to break. So we want to just bring it to a nice gentle simmer so that all of our ingredients are well melted, well incorporated, but not too hot. Okay. And then we have our chocolate pieces ready to go on standby in their bowl and a whisk. Okay. So one of the things that I really love about this torte is that you can eat it without feeling guilty. Not that you should ever feel guilty about eating food. You know, sometimes we have to feed our soul, right? And one of the things that we're always talking about in the Holistic Chef program is the eating for health model. Sometimes you need that slice of chocolate cake. And that is fine. That feeds your soul. So today, though, we get to have our chocolate cake, but also all of the benefits of those beets, those pasture raised eggs. We've got the flavonoids, the polyphenols from the cacao powder. We have all of the beautiful fiber in beets and just really lovely flavor too. And then we're going to garnish it with some fun fruit garnishes as well. So I've got some strawberries. We're going to do some chocolate covered strawberries because why not? Valentine's Day. And then I also have some freeze-dried mango and some freeze-dried strawberry. I really love using the freeze-dried fruits because it gives you this kind of tangy, crispy bite, which is a lovely garnish and also pops of color right on top of that ganache. All right, so on our burner, you can see now that our coconut milk is coming to a nice simmer. That coconut oil has melted beautifully. And we just want to make sure that everything is well incorporated. Okay, we can turn off our heat. And then we're going to pour it over our small cut chocolate pieces. And so again, for a standard ganache, you're looking for equal parts by weight. So we have 4 ounces of cut dark chocolate and then 4 ounces of coconut milk. And then our additional flavoring. So that tablespoon, anywhere from a tablespoon or a teaspoon of vanilla extract, and then about a tablespoon of that coconut oil for shine. The really important part for the ganache, patience. We got to wait until it melts the chocolate a little bit. If you start stirring it too quickly, then you might end up with some lumps in your ganache. So patience is a virtue here, although I know it's hard with those chocolate smells. I'm dealing with it right now. It's delicious. Smells really good. I just want to stick my finger in it. But we have to wait for about a minute or so just so that it gives that heat, the residual heat from the coconut milk to melt all of that chocolate so we get this creamy, silky ganache that we can pour over our cake. Okay. So in that time, I wanted to show you some of these other garnishes that we're going to play with. So, like I said, I've got some freeze-dried strawberries. I've got some freeze-dried mango. And we have some strawberries here. So one of the things that I really like to do with chocolate covered strawberries is that green is lovely on a plate. It gives you that nice little pop of color, that color contrast. So we have some yellow from the mango. We have some sort of pinky red from our freeze-dried strawberries, a really rich red from the fresh fruit, and then this green. And the green is going to be part of that beautiful sort of color pop and balance. Because that's one of the other things we're always thinking about as chefs. First, you eat with your eyes, right? So we want to make sure that it looks good, especially a dessert. People love pretty desserts, right? So we want to make sure it looks good. And then we need to also make sure it tastes good. And then it needs to be good for you too, whether that's for your soul, for your gut, whatever part of you that you're feeding in this moment. Okay. All right, I think I've vamped enough, so I think we can go ahead and mix up our ganache. So we're gonna go ahead and give it a good stir. And you can see because we were patient, because we waited, I'm not meeting any resistance. All of those chunks of chocolate have melted. And so we're just going to whisk until it all comes together in this beautiful, silky, shiny ganache. Okay. And so for my ganache, I'm going to be using it today more as a glaze, more as a mirror glaze kind of finish. But if you wanted to, you could also chill this down and form it into truffles. You could make this into a whipped ganache frosting as well. So if you allow it to chill, you can whip it up with either a hand mixer, or if you're really strong getting your workout for the day, you can whisk it by hand. But ganache is a really wonderful option for coating cakes in a number of different ways. All right, so beautiful. You can see that shiny, glossy texture. All right, we're going to set this whisk off to the side, and I'm going to make a couple chocolate covered strawberries first. Okay, so I have my little sheet tray. We're going to pick a couple strawberries here and just dip them in, get a nice coating, kind of shake it off so that you don't have a lot of excess, and then place it onto our sheet tray, where we can then pop it into the fridge just for a minute or two before we start decorating with the rest of our ingredients. Maybe we'll do 3 chocolate covered strawberries. And what I really love too about garnishing cakes is that you can really make it your own, not just in how it makes your dessert look, but also, adding in that extra element of fruit, adding that extra nutrition, adding in a little bit of fiber. It's a really great way to add additional nutrition to your desserts while making it look beautiful. So we're going to pop these into the refrigerator while we work on some of our other decorating. Okay. All right, now's the fun part. We get to just cover our chocolate torte in chocolate. Why not? All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to just coat the top. And you can see, even with tapping some of those bubbles out, we still have a little bit of air from the eggs that have been blended up. So you still are going to notice some bubbles, some little pock marks. And because there are so many eggs in this, you may notice that it will crack a little bit. That's because it actually souffles up in the oven and then will rest back down. But we're going to cover it with chocolate, so nobody's going to know. It's not a big deal. All right, so we want to take a couple nice spoonfuls of our ganache. And I like to do it by the spoonful just so that I can kind of control the flow of my ganache. Okay, you can see how beautiful and shiny that is. All right, so we're just going to kind of coat the top just enough so that we get a little drizzle down the side. Okay, so very gently, kind of spreading it around with our spoon. I like to kind of rotate the plate at the same time that I'm spreading. Okay. Just getting a little bit of that elegant drip down the sides. Just enough to cover all of that surface. Okay. Beautiful. And this will settle out a little bit because it's nice and warm. So one of the other things we can do, just like before we put it in the oven, is just give it a little tap just to get rid of any potential air holes. And you can see that beautiful mirror shine that it has. Yeah. All right. So we have our chocolate covered strawberries that are hanging out in the refrigerator, but I thought we could also use just some nice fresh strawberries too for a little pop of color. So again, I'm going to leave on that green part because I think it looks so nice in contrast with the reds of the strawberries. I'm going to cut some of these in half. And we're going to have fun with it. We're just going to decorate to our heart's content. All right. So we have some nice halved strawberries, which incidentally look like little hearts, perfect for Valentine's Day, right? And then we're just going to go wild. So we want to put some nice decoration. And I'm a big fan of the sort of asymmetrical decoration on cakes. But if you prefer sort of a more balanced or even look, please, by all means, when you make this yourself, just have fun with the decorating, right? So we're gonna put some strawberries. We're gonna put some small pieces of mango. Right? I like to break them up so you get some nice little crispy pieces here and there. All right. Put some of our freeze-dried strawberries kind of tucked in between. And then finally, I'm going to go back and I'm going to grab my chocolate-covered strawberries. You can let these chill a little bit longer as well if you want them to be a little firmer. But for the sake of time, we're going to just grab a couple, kind of make them front and center, right? Because who doesn't love a chocolate-covered strawberry? There you go. Position them. Make sure that it looks good to you aesthetically, but there we have it, our chocolate beet torte. We have some beautiful fruit garnishes, not only that add nutrition, but also add a beautiful sort of look to the dish. And what's really great about this torte, again, is that it's going to get better as it sits. So today, fresh, you'll have that nice, warm, almost pudding-like texture from the beets because it's nice and soft. But also, if you let it sit for a day, 2 days, that chocolate flavor is just going to condense. The cacao flavor is just going to ripen in with those beets. And then all of the flavors from your fruit will just kind of meld together beautifully. So there we go. I think Michelle put the link in the chat, but there is a whole demonstration. There's a whole recipe sequence on our blog you can go check out. But I hope you get a chance to make this because it's a lot of fun.